Hello everybody, Joethelawyer here, and thanks for watching. Hey guys, so recently I released a big video. It was pretty big, like 3.5 hours, and it was my deep dive into all aspects of the OSR, like every aspect of it, every little part of it. And it's gotten a great reception, but I realized that, 3.5 hours is pretty big for most people to sit there, even though it's broken up into chapters. So I had an idea, maybe I'll just put this out in pieces. That each main part has a separate piece, and that way people can sort of digest it at their own pace. I don't have to worry about listening to a big long video, essentially. And by listen, I mean because I just talk and show these cool black and white art pictures from old school D&D, so I don't have to watch or anything. But I thought it might be a good idea because there's a lot of people recently who got into the OSR, or were looking to get into the OSR, and they came from a 5e experience, and maybe they watched some YouTubers like Matt Mercer, Matt Colville, Ginny D, and and that's their experience, and they're hearing about this OSR thing from the sidelines, and they're like, what is it? I want to check it out. And so basically, I figured let me do this big video, and now I'm breaking it up into pieces for you. So. You're going to hear a lot of references to things, boards or blogs or links to this or that, and maybe references to products. I have a link page for everything I talk about, so you guys don't have to take notes at all or anything like that. All right, so just click. The link page is included in the description here, as well as a link to the big video if you want to just listen to this thing all the way through. I'm dropping it in like 13 chunks, I think it'll be. So feel free to take a look at that. And one really important thing, guys, is I got a little contest going with Eric Tankar. Whoever gets to 5,000 subs first, the other guy, the other guys got to buy a steak dinner and donate $100 to their favorite charity. So I definitely want to win a steak dinner because I'm doing the Atkins diet, damn it, and I like steak. So anyway, guys, if you could like and subscribe and share it around, I really appreciate it. That would go a long way toward helping me beat them. I would really appreciate that. So without further ado, enjoy the video, guys. All right, guys, so message boards. What the hell are they? It's like a bulletin board system. I think it started, the derivation of message boards were back in the old dial-up modem days where you logged into BBSs, right, on people's various computers, and that's once the internet kicked in, they sort of got rid of those. I remember those things. They were kind of fun. Downloading things at a 2800 baud. But anyway, when the internet kicked in, they sort of went onto the internet in a different format. They were, message boards, basically. Same sort of thing, but everybody could log in at one time and mess around there. You wouldn't limit it to whoever dialed in at that time because there's only one who could post, right? So they really exploded. There was a bunch of them around back then that were really seminal in the foundation of the OSR. Let me start this off, though, with mentioning two boards that you really don't need to go to. They're probably pretty popular right now. N-World, E-N-World, whatever you call it, and then RPG-Net, right? They're probably the two bigger boards that are going on right now. And truly back in the day, they did have some old school activity. Whatever they had then is probably not useful because most people just left because they got ridiculous. I mean, they got strict and started censoring shit before it was even popular. Ian World especially, they suck, honestly. And if you go there now and get 5e content, fine, do whatever, learn it, do whatever you got to do and learn something, but move on. You're not going to find anything old school there, and that's that. I mean, I remember people I would post long posts there, thought pieces, things that were more appropriate perhaps for a blog, and people would bust my chops and say, don't post this here, I want to hear this. They wanted like one paragraph post, and you're just like, go make your own fucking blog. Then EN World came up with their own blog system. I started doing it there, and it's like, what the hell with you? That's when I started my blog in 2008 on Blogger, right? So, and RPG-Net was always shit. Honestly, they always suck, and the mods suck there. So don't bother with them. Now, the blogs that were the most important back in the day, though, one was ODD74. And again, all links to the current incarnation of these blogs are live. I say current incarnation because ODD74 had an older blog, and then they moved it to a different blog format or something, but blah, blah, blah. So anyway, you can get onto ODD74. As the name implies, it was mostly about old Dungeons & Dragons, original Dungeons & Dragons, 1974 edition. People were talking a lot about it back then and wanted to, just get into the nitty-gritty of it. And I think, a lot of the luminaries of the OSR started there. It was like the main blog that they really hit on. They just get into the nuts and bolts of it and what was it all about. They got into the theory of D&D and of the game design and everything. So that was a worthy place to hit back then. It was kind of an intellectual place more so than a shit stirring place. If you wanted a shit stirring place, that's where you go to the RPG site. It was sometimes described as the Moss Isley spaceport of the OSR. It's not that bad though. It's more like a bunch of curmudgeonly old guys arguing about shit. But we started good. Every conversation got good, and then it always evolved. At the end of the good stuff, it evolved into like fuck you and fuck you. It was that sort of thing. But it was like the Irish brothers. They beat the shit out of each other, and then they go and hug each other and cry and have a beer together afterwards. It was like that, right? If you want an explanation, maybe the best representation, if you've ever seen that movie, Secondhand Lions, those two old guys sitting on the porch, that's what it was all about. That's the best vibe I could, put for the RPG site. And the RPG Pundit, you have his channel out there now on YouTube too. He owns it and ran it back then too. Light moderation, so that was good. He just trusted us not to be dicks. And, there's different levels of dicks. And his was a broad level of dicks. So it was a fun place. Big site. First place I met a lot of these guys that I got onto was Dragon's Foot. That was a site focused on the AD&D game mostly first, sometimes second, but mostly first edition. And right even to this day, you can go there and have good discussions and see old discussions. Everything is still there about the game. You see my old posts, Matt Finch's old post. He was there as Mythmere. Everybody was there talking about the game. It was fun. It was a good place. It was a fun place to get into. And if I remember right, they have resources there. They have dozens, if not hundreds, of modules that people just wrote and put up for publication. So you want to get a free module? Boom, there you go. Hop into Dragon's Foot. All right. Knights and Knaves Ale House. That was a good blog as well. I wasn't there as often, but it was a good place to be to dive into all the old school shit. A lot of everybody all jumped around from blog to blog. Board to board, rather. I'm sorry. I keep calling these blogs. Board to board. We all jumped around from board to board and discussed things. And sometimes the discussion on one board would get dropped into the other board and, that sort of thing. It was like, hey, it was cross-board referencing, right? So you kind of needed to be on all of them to see what the current topics of the day were. But it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. They were the place, like I said, everybody was before blogging started, right? Another cool blog that's still going right now is called I don't know how you pronounce it. Acaeum, Acaeum. It's a blog forum that's still going today, and it's for collectors, right? So if you want to know, like, how do you know the difference between the first printing and the second printing of the little brown books? It's because of this thing on page 5 and this thing on page 4, and here's the exact value you're going to get anywhere for them. That's where you go. So if you're a collector, you want to dive into it, the history and the lore of things and where it came from and how and why. These guys know everything. That's where you go for that sort of thing, right? The last one that I'll talk about here, and I'll give you the links for, it's called the Piazza. All right, the Piazza is a board that's focused on settings, old school specifically, but even newer ones. I've seen there. I was actually surprised it's still going, all right? I mean, because I logged in just to see. Rob Connolly, I asked him for some of the newer blogs, and he told me about that one. I'm like, God, that's still around? He goes, yeah. So the Piazza is focused on old school settings, but even some new ones too. You're not talking crunch, right? You're not talking numbers and how to min-max your guy and what the latest drop from Wizards of the Coast is about, Rangers should be this. None of that crap. You're talking about settings. So from Greyhawk to Mystara to Forgotten Realms, that's what you're getting to get into there, okay? Plus, like I said, a bunch of the newer ones too. So check out the Piazza. That's still going on. That's still going strong. So we A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So there you go. 7. We got 7 message boards you guys could dive into. Actually 6. Like I said, don't get into EN World and RPGNet. They kind of suck. We'll start with EN World and Morris, the guy who runs it. There was I remember I talked shit about him back in the day on the blog. I talked a lot of shit back in the day on the blog. So I talked a lot of shit about Morris back in the day because he's an asshole to me, I thought, But one day I talked so much shit about him on my own personal blog, he banned me from N-World. That's how much he hated me. He's a fuck you, Morris. Fuck you, man. Then he banned me from N-World because of that. So even some of his diehard fans are like, dude, that ain't right, man. You don't ban a guy from your fucking board for what he said about your blog. So anyway, that was kind of fun. I made fun of him a lot because, fuck him. So anyway, that's my little take on all the message boards, guys. All right, next thing we're gonna hit is the blogs. That's truly where everybody was in like 08, 09, right? The boards were prior to that, but 08, 09 is where it really started taking off. I started my blog, where all the guys started theirs, all right? All the big guys. So we're going to hit that next, all coming about the blogs, and then moving up to Google Plus, all right, which isn't around anymore, sadly. Well, maybe it's good. It went to a toxic waste dump at the end. Anyway, blogs.